No.
Well, upstairs is supposed to, downstairs is.
This thing going.
You got my microphone?
No.
Just take it off when you finish, because otherwise I'll hear everything you're talking about.
That good enough?
I hear you. I heard the static when you rubbed it.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Good to see you back, Marvin.
Demonstrated this morning, and making a multi-axis box. It's a really cool project. I haven't seen bits and pieces of it. I'm anxious to see the whole thing from the beginning to the end. We're gonna have elections after the demonstration, so please stick around for that. Take it away.
We good to go? Okay. All right. Several months ago, when we were all doing crazy,
Hold on. I can hear that one go.
Yeah. Go for it, huh? Good to go? Several months ago, when we were all doing our flower vases for the event here, Marvin Cohen sent me an email after he had done, and it was one of his New Jersey members up there doing this multi-access bowl. So I thought it was a decent project, and I've played with it a little bit. So that's what we're going to attempt to do today. I'm going to do it in segments because it's pretty lengthy, pretty involved, and I don't want to have everybody sitting here for 4 hours because that's about as quick as I can do the whole thing from beginning to end. Okay, if you need the address for the video from the guy that did it that Marvin sent me, come see me afterwards. I've got it on my cell phone, and we'll go from there. Basically, it's a multi-axis turned bowl. It ends up with a big star shape like this on the piece. So you've got one axis like this piece is on from center to center, and then you've got 4 more. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. Let me count them. Make sure. You do have to lay it out, and that's probably the most important part of the project. You know, I'm lucky in that the robust lathe has got one really nice indexing wheel back here on the back of the drive center. If you just screw it in, it's got 48 tabs, and 48 into 8 goes. If you're making 8 segments, it goes 6 times. So every 6 holes, you turn it around. You can use an indexing wheel if you've got one, or in the video they showed a pretty neat way that I'd never played with before as far as using a piece of tape and laying it out, just going around the piece here. And it works fairly close. I laid this one out originally on my robust, every 6 holes, and then for the holes here, skip 3. This is these are the edges that'll be here when we get done with it. This is the center that will disappear. And it'll disappear because we're actually going to cut this piece in half, and then you end up with 2 bowls out of the thing. So, so you get 2 for the price of 1. I got 1 here. Problem with this one is there's a little booger in the back end of it that's not going to come out. So we just kind of scrapped that. And the one thing you have to remember, at least doing it this way, and this is a branch. This is not starting out, ideally you would start out with a cube. 6 by 6 by 6, 8 by 8 by 8. I wouldn't go any bigger than that because you've got to spin this thing. Yeah, you can, this one or that one or which one you want to pass. And that one had a few oopses when I was cutting it in half too, and I'll show you how to do that. And that the parting tool hit a couple of the edges here and put a few dings in it, but at least it went on the side that we weren't going to use and not on the good side. Anyway, the way they did it, and I think it's a pretty good idea, is to, take a piece of blue tape. If you don't have all the fancy equipment, the indexing wheel and all the other stuff, and go around it, start. And we're going to go around one time with a little bit more, just to say we can. And I'm going to cut that off. At least I think I am. Okay. Okay, so we're going to cut it off up right about here. And I'm going right on the line here because that's where we're going to put everything back when we get to that part. And then pull this off of here. And now theoretically, if I measure this piece of tape, I've got the circumference of the piece here, which works pretty well. And then take your tape off. And do it with the lathe clean. Lay this out here. And you can use a board or whatever. I would suggest, getting a ruler. I mean, you could do this other ways. Like I said, if you got an indexing wheel, use it. As far as the measuring goes around it, if you go to one of the sewing shops and get one of those cloth measuring tapes, yeah, that you can twist around this thing. I don't know but get a metric ruler. It's so much easier to divide 400 in millimeters than it is to take, 7 and 30 seconds or 16 30 seconds or 14 30 or 13 30 seconds. Let's really make it hard and divide that by 8. And I can't even begin to do the math on that, but I can take 400 millimeters and divide that by 8 and come up with a number that, you may be off by 1 or 2, but if you adjust for that 1 or 2 as you're going around, don't wait till the end and then all of a sudden be off by 6 millimeters, because your eye will pick that up, where it won't pick up, an adjustment here and there for 1. So do it. And right here, I am, 39 centimeters, which is 390 millimeters. And I kind of had a sneaking feeling that was what it was going to be. So if we divide that by 8, it's 48.96, and then just keep going around. Then you got to make a second trip around. You got to take half of this number to get the point here, which is going to be the center. And you start out with 24 and then add 48 to it and go around that way. And it comes out pretty dang close. When I did it with that piece of tape or whatever the one is that I just had on here, it worked out real well. Oh, it's at my feet. So it worked out to be, pretty close. I've got the marks here being as you go around the piece. So just an easy way to do it, and you don't have to have a lot of equipment to go out and do it via this method here. When you come around and do it, draw a line, use your tool rest and a pencil, draw a line, go halfway, draw a line here. And then I put holes in with a 30-second drill, because you want to be able to index these back. And the only way I can do it, because most of these lines, when you start turning this thing, they're going to disappear. They're not going to be there. So we've got holes in here. And these are going to be where the valleys are in the piece. These are going to be the ridges, and we go around that way. And then keep your drill handy, because if you start to lose one of these little holes, you got to re-drill the thing to keep it in shape. Okay. So then this started out as a branch. And I had no idea how far what the diameter was going to be of it until we got it round. So it turned out to be, and that's where we came up with these numbers. Like I say, if you can start with a cube, 6 by 6 by 6, it's a whole lot easier, because you just put it on there and start turning. Get it round and go from there. And then we get to the scary part. What we've got to do now is cut flats in here. And you can see where I've done 3 of the 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, and I've left the 4th one here. We'll make this flat in a couple of seconds. The first one is by far and away the hardest, because you've got to go all the way up to about the center line here. If you just try to stop with this cutaway, you're only going to be about yay far up the piece of wood. And it's going to be a problem, because you've got to have it, turned all the way up to almost the center line here. And we'll do that now, just for kicks and. Doesn't really matter where you start. You've got 1 point here, 1 point there. And make sure that you get that on nice and tight. And slow the lathe down. And it starts turning. You can set your tool rest in here. Now, you can see the pencil lines in here. What you want to do, and I learned this the hard way a couple of years ago when I was just doing a square 4-sided bowl, is you've got to cut this thing. The tendency is to want to follow the line, with the curve in there. And if you do that, you end up with a horrible, ungodly mess. So it's a matter of cutting straight across on the tool rest here to get this into shape. And I think this is sharp, but we'll find out here. And like I said, we're going to jump around a little bit. We'll do this first one, and then we'll go to that piece over there and do the final one, and then we'll go to a piece that's got 3 of the 4 flutes turned in it. I mean, you could do this if you wanted to, like you were doing a fluted bowl or something like that, if you had a great big sanding disc. I use this one, but I use it to, and we'll talk about it, to sand out the flutes here. It makes a good sanding machine. You could, turn it this way on smaller bowls, with like 48, I'll do it with a sanding disc. You ever get the money for the tickets, Cindy? Because I still owe you $5. So.
I got it.
Okay.
Just waiting for you to-
Waiting on me to. So we're going to start here, and we're going to come straight across. And you'll find that you're all going to go almost out to the edges. And we'll turn it on, and you can see where it's going to take a while to get us up. And I'm not going quite straight. I'm a little bit off here and going slanting in, so we got to correct for that. And that's looking better. You'll end up tearing out one side here. Don't get, as you're coming around, don't get too alarmed by that. But we're going to go ahead and we'll follow the rules, turn the machine off to move the tool rest. And what I've got this on is a pair of the stem centers that have got the spikes in it, so and we're getting close. Got a little bit of a oops right there in the wood, but there's not much I can do about that. It's just a half-inch gouge, and I've got multiple ones. I like this Jimmy Clues handle here because I can just, pop it out, get a new one that's sharp, pop it back in. Normally when I'm turning, I go out in the morning and sharpen up a half a dozen of these, and then I can play all day long without having to resharpen. Oh, come on.
What are you aiming for?
I'm aiming to get it up, basically up here to close to my center line. With it turned, and it'll come down to close to the center line here. I mean, this and this will level out. And then each one, as you progress around, what you have to turn away gets less and less and less, and it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. The hard part is this first cut here, and then it gets easier after that. And as you can see, it's getting filled. We got about one or two more cuts, but this is gradually approaching that center line, and it's getting close down here, and that's where we want it to be. So we'll make about one more pass, and then we'll transform to one that's got the other three done, because we don't need to sit here and watch me do that for half an hour. Again, as it gets smaller, move the tool rest in. And if you're using a branch or something like that that's got bark on it, try to get the bark off before. Brian and I were turning, I was in my shop one Sunday morning, and I had the bark on there, and I'm trying to go in and peel the bark off real carefully, and all of a sudden we had this big bang, and the whole big piece of bark came off. And so, you know, word-wise, be a little smart. Take it off with a chisel beforehand, and that way you don't get smacked, especially as it dries out. It gets, you know, it's not going to stick to the wood. It's going to come off. And, you know, the stuff that we were using has been sitting on my patio for 6 months or so. Okay, and I think I'm probably going to stop right there because I'm pretty close to being, and I've still got a little bit of the lines. So I would stop doing this one. And through the magic of cinematography, we're going to go from there to here. And the hard part now is to figure out how to put this thing back in so that the point that you're looking for comes out. Oh, come on. And you can see where you've got the marks in each one of these sides around here. Don't let it bother you. When we cut this thing in half, we're going to cut right through the marks. And then all you got is a little bit on the two halves to clean up, and so the holes disappear. The two halves to clean up, and so the holes disappear. All right, and you can see how short this has gotten after you've done the other three, and this will go real quick. Again, don't try to follow the shadow line here because you can see where it's got a great big curve in it. If, like I said, it'll mess everything up if you do that. Cut straight across. And don't be afraid to stop and look, and we're getting just about where I would want this to be. So that was easy on the last one. It took, what, a tenth of what the first one did. And we're fairly level through here. That's one thing you want to look for, is that you don't have any real big gaps or differences in where the pieces come around. So that's where we end up now. And now you can start actually fluting these pieces, or turning the cove in them. And again, we're going to transform forward. I've got 3 of the 4 done here. We'll put this one in, and we'll turn this part here, and then we'll talk about leveling everything up and getting, you know, cleaning up the piece a little bit. So we're going to pull this one off. Again, you don't want to watch me go through. Oh, okay, thanks. Hard to see. Okay, that one's in. Now we're going to turn that out, and I'm going to use a little smaller gouge for that. This is rapidly becoming one of my favorite tools. It's a little 3/8 1/4-inch bowl gouge in here, and I like it because it's a little bit heavier, thicker through here than a little 3/8 spindle gouge. I find that they flex a little bit when you're cutting with them. This doesn't seem to do nearly as much flexing. And we're just going to start here and take a little bit. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole operation here. And I'm trying to get right back over here. I got a little bit to go. You can see we've still got a little bit of a flat. I want these ridges to be as straight and pointed on both sides as possible. So we got one more little turn to make here. Starting with the tool straight up. Bringing it in, I can cut a little bit of this away. Am I getting close? I got a little bit more, one more little cut here. And the nice thing about it, if you're a one-sided turner, I cut better going from my right to my left than I do from my left to my right. Always have, part of being human. Nice thing about it is you just take this thing and flip it around because you can reset the thing in here. Makes it really easy, yeah. Duh, kidneys. See if we can cut that little nub out of here. Okay, we've got a little more to go over here. Must not be quite. Okay, we've got a little more to go over here. Must not be quite square. And I want to check and I'm good through here too. It's not overly much deeper than the other pieces coming around. That's where you want to try and get it. Got a little bit of a flat there. That is probably due to this side here, and we'll go back and clean that up in a minute. not being quite as deep as what we're turning here. So let's do one thing first. We're going to do my famous trick here. Flip it around. And we'll clean this up a little. Watching my shadow line there, and I can kind of bring this down and around, down and around. And I got to come back, and that edge has come through quite nice. I'm going to come back over here, flip it back around again. Do one more pass over. Let's see, where am I? Here. You get lost in these things, yeah. Which one am I on? Come down a little more, okay. And I'm still a little bit high here, so I've got to cut in a little bit more on that. Okay, I'm about ready to lose my index right here, so let's get this done. And the problem is, you can see, and I'm not going to take the time to correct this, it's a little bit low through here and a little high, but the high is being caused by this being not quite as deep here. So we're going to flip it over and see if we can get rid of some of that. And this is probably the toughest part of the whole project, trying to get all these things squared up.
Bruce, don't you want the depth of those?
Yeah, you want those to be equal. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're coming back around the second time, and you may have to do a third time. But absolutely, you want them to be as equal as you can possibly get them coming around through the.
So why aren't you using some measuring device?
I just, don't have one that I can really put inside
What
the.
it looks like is more important than what it is.
Pardon me?
Because when you're done, what it looks like is more important
Yeah.
than what it actually is.
So I mean, I know this one is not as deep here as the other parts coming around, so we're gonna try and correct that right now. And that's getting it a little closer. Still got a little more to go. That's a little bit, you can see the ridge here, so we need to cut that. And I am not going to do what I did on the one over here and lose my center point, so. And that's got that pretty well cleaned up on that side, and you can see where it's coming in line here.
When you originally drill the hole, are they essentially where you just drill the hole?
Yeah.
So if you drilled at a precise depth,
You can drill it all the way
then.
through.
You could drill them all the way through because you're gonna,
If you drill at a precise depth, then you know you've gone
yep,
just deep enough.
yep, yep,
You stop when you.
yep, absolutely. There's all sorts of tricks.
As far as the
Yeah.
depth of the groove.
I mean, I'm playing with these things too as we go along, and you know, it's a learning process as anything else, especially when you get a project that's a little more complex like this one is. So, but it's a challenge, is the way I look at it. And it would probably also help if I had a light, but it would probably wash out the video and okay, so we're going to come back this way. And you can see now where these have kind of leveled out and the points are back nice and crisp and sharp. Okay. And then what I would do would be, and I'll flip this around and get rid of this little ridge here, but you would spend the time going to each one of these and trying to get the depth up here, that's your depth gauge up here, as level as you can do. And that's the hard part. In the video, it took the guy that was doing the video when he was actually in actual time about 2 hours to do it. They condensed it on the video, obviously, to about 35 seconds, so makes it look a whole lot easier than it was. Okay, now.
You could sand it.
Oh yeah, you can sand, yep, you can sand it. I get the big discount and do it, and I'll do it when where I really use this is when I've cut the piece in half. I can come in here, put this in the drill chuck,
Yeah, the drum sander.
the drum sander, and just sand them down with this thing running here, and we'll play with that in a couple seconds or a few minutes. So we've done I'm gonna get this little ridge out of here. We'll start down in here. And that's getting it down a little more through here, and I think we've got it.
What speed is that, Bruce?
It's running about 1,000, about half or a third of what it should be.
Pass that one around?
This one, yeah. Well, I need to cut this one in half.
Oh, okay, I thought you had one cut in half
Nope.
already. Okay.
Now what we're going to do here is go back on the original 2 points out here, which is what it was when it was going horizontal through it. And again, okay. Take a parting tool, and I'm just going to kind of go through here. I'm going to line it up on the center line out here so that I know where I'm at. And carefully come in through here. And the whole thing is remember to pull that thing out and pull it all the way out, because if you don't, you're going to clip one of these sides and break it off. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. Yep, like that. Now what I want to do is just come over here and put a tenon on each end. Yeah, we're going to use the old hacksaw trick with the blade flipped around, because that's the easiest. To try to take this over and do it on a bandsaw would be extremely dangerous, yeah. I'm going to put a little tenon over here. Got my tool rest down a little bit. Tighten that down. End up having to go a little bit deeper on that. And the wood good here, all the way around, pretty close. Okay, I've got almost wood all the way around. One more little pass. Something for the chuck to bite into, and that should work. And now I'm going to get lazy and flip it around and do it on the other side, just because this big clunking headstock is in the way over here. Ooh, I dinged that good. Yeah, well. A little more. I've got a chuck that'll go that small, so. Okay, that'll do it. Now, we're going to do the hacksaw trick. And all this is just a hacksaw here with the blade reversed, so that the teeth are pointing forward instead of normally back. We're going to start here and come in, and just hopefully this will cut right through everything here. Takes a little bit of pressure. Let me get the tool rest out of the way so we don't run into that. And
There's no reverse direction of the blade. You can,
go, just the way the machines, it cuts better, at least in my opinion it does, so.
Could you put the machine in reverse?
You could probably put it in reverse. That's, I've just got one hacksaw. I got probably a half a dozen of them. One I just reverse the blade in and go from there. Okay, it's going to take a little bit of. Oh, come on. Make sure it's good and tight. drill right through the center here in a minute. Now we're cutting. Get it good and tight before you start. And just and then from here, it's just a matter of, hollowing out. This is end grain, so be careful when you hollow that you start from the middle and go towards the outside, not from the other. So we'll put that aside. Do we have the knockout bar for this thing? I'm looking for the knockout bar, yeah.
On the side, the other side.
On the other side? Oh, right where it should be. Right where it should be. I know. Duh. What are we doing? Oh. No. In my big sanding wheel. What do we do with that? Oh, here it is. It helps if you've got a drill chuck with a number 2 Morse tenon on it. Okay. Get it in the drill chuck straight. Helps tremendously. I ain't gonna do it. That's better. And then you can just carefully sand these. One can use a little more. And I'm not going to do a whole lot more because I don't want to set the sprinkler system off in here with the dust. But you can see where the sanding has cleaned up the edges around. And again, after that, it's just a matter, again, you're going to hollow this out, make a bowl, you know. Remember, it's end grain coming through here, so you got to come in from the center and work your way out, not go the other way. And that's about it. Cut the tenon off and finish it. Don't want to get into that stuff, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you. It's just a kind of a cool project, I think. I like playing, with stuff that's off center.
If
And
you don't make fluted bowls, there's a lot of useful lessons there, like the indexing and the use of the drum sander in the headstock and a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff there.
so,
Bruce, you could have done the fluting in that first step. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You could do the cutting off and the fluting all in one step on each side. Absolutely. You can do it that way. I will probably do it that way the next one because I think it'll be faster. But for this one, I did it that way. No particular reason why, just, that's the way it was done. Okay, anybody else got any questions?
Very nice.
Okay, great. Yep.
One thing, I had some trouble sometimes putting something in the headstock, without bringing up the tailstock.
Yeah.
Where it would come loose, more staple wasn't.
Yep.
So I have a threaded.
A threaded rod that comes in, yeah, that, I do too on some other stuff I use, but this one doesn't have any threads on the back of it to thread the rod into, so,
I just bring it up because.
yep, no, it's good point, Carl. All righty, let's clean this mess up.
Take about 10 or 15 minutes, clean up, and we'll have a brief meeting, and Cindy will sell some more tickets.
Yeah.